I just because Kayla and I were, I this is we were walking one day through my old neighborhood, and we were talking to each other, and we just thought experiment: is a utopia possible? Why
Yeah.
is we started with why isn't a utopia possible, and then we shifted the question like how could we get to a utopia?
People are too selfish by nature. It never work out.
Yes,
I wouldn't say it's impossible, but I was about to
It's
say
it's
that's
not
what Mason just said.
yeah.
because people.
Kayla wanted to clarify. No drugs involved. I want to specify. Yes, he's completely right.
Hey, like no kidding, no kidding, dude. Straight up, I don't think utopia is possible because I want to believe there's more good than evil in the world. But even with that thought process, there's not enough good for the utopia to be possible.
Okay, so this is where it gets trippy, because we were talking instead of saying how is it not possible, we were saying how could it be possible, and the only way it could be possible is if everybody had like a purpose that would benefit everybody, and if everybody was identical.
It'd be the same. It'd be
so-
the same thought process. Everybody would have to be open-minded.
Yes,
Everybody would have to be on the same page.
Yes. So who's to say that? I mean that's part of A Brave New World. Have you guys ever read of that book?
Mm-mm.
You guys haven't read
Is
that
that
book?
the book that
That
you
sounds
read
familiar.
in high school?
Yeah, it's one of the books that you
Okay,
read in
then
high
that's
school.
the book I read. I was about to bring up this book. All right, yeah, never mind.
So it's basically a utopian society that has been crafted in a test tube, and they've characterized specific traits, they've monitored people's progress, and they've sorted people out into alphas, they've sorted people out into betas, epsilons, everything like that, everywhere in between. And so everybody has their specific role, but everybody is content with that role because they understand that they're either just like their group, or they're just like the other group, or there's like a social cohesion that's working together. There's nobody that wants to be an individual. That's the only way like that could work, is if we gave up our individuality.
Yeah.
I don't think utopia could be achieved any other way except giving up individuality.
I was about
Well,
to say,
no, because
you-
everybody's gonna have their own selfish thought processes in ways,
Yes.
of what they feel like would be beneficial towards whatever.
Right.
That's just how the world works. Like I could have an opinion about how whatever how I can make Krispy Kreme donuts better, but as long as you don't agree with me on that, and you refuse to agree with me on that, and I don't agree with you and I refuse to agree with you, then nothing's going to get done about how Krispy Kreme donuts could get better,
So there's a level of subjectivity in that too. Like your individuality comes in when you place subjective roles or subjective opinion preferences, because you don't know what I'm experiencing. You don't know the taste preferences that I have.
Exactly.
I experience things from a different point of view. So that's part of my individuality, is that subjective nature. So like you were saying, unless we all came to an objective conclusion about the specific tastes of that Krispy Kreme donut,
Yeah.
there's no way a utopia could be formed, because of the fact that we all rely on these subjective interpretations.
And the only way you could change that is if you get rid of everybody's individuality, which you would have to, like you said, you'd have to make everybody the same, because we'd have to have the same taste buds for Krispy Kreme donut, We'd have to have the same thought process. We'd have to have the same, whatever.
Yeah, you get rid of subjectivity completely.
Yeah. I mean, but that's why it's not, that's why it can't happen, because
Right.
everybody is born differently.
Right. And
They're
so
born differently, they're raised differently, different environments. That's just how the world works.
that's how it works. There we
you
go.
can't, you can't do it without brainwashing people. Like that's the only way you'd be able to create a utopia.
Well,
would
even
be,
then,
like, to
there's people
brainwash
out there
people.
that are going to be like, hey, I don't like you because you have blue eyes and all my homies have green eyes. You're weird. You're different. That's
that's
just
the
how it's gonna
thought
work,
process
yeah.
of racism, though, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
That's the thought process of racism, because it's a
Yes.
lack of understanding between someone else's subjective experience.
Exactly. We could be the same, I could like whatever, the same thing you like, have the same taste buds, dress the same, whatever. But it's like, hey, if I don't like you because you have green eyes and I refuse to like people who have green eyes or whatever, then nothing's going to get done.
Well, I think people are naturally prone, and this is an understanding of how those thought processes happen. Because, for example, take the group of people that organizes themselves in the quickest and easiest way: high schools.
Yeah.
High school cliques are the prime example of how the human thought process organizes themselves into subjectively different groups. And so when you think about it that way, you're understanding, all right, maybe we're all just high school kids that are we've taken the people out of high school, and now we're just trying to figure out how we mold all these groups together. And so I don't think it's any more than that simple process. I think that people are naturally predisposition to organize themselves with other people that remind them of themselves. And the question is now, how do we dissolve that barrier? Like, how do we get past that? Like, what nature of subjectivity do we do to bring people together so they understand other people's subjective reality?
Well, that's
objectively?
where it lies in itself, though, is because, like, humans naturally judge. That's what every human does. They judge based off of whether they like this person because they consider them a friend or whatever, or a mate or a possible enemy or whatever. That's just how nature works. That happens with different, species of animals and, reptiles and all that other stuff. So we fall under that category as well.
Right.
That's where I don't think you can actually get rid of that unless you would have to change nature itself.
I'm going to go back to some of these comments, but first, Del says racism is natural. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that there's underlying processes that lead people down these paths, and we have to identify those to understand how we're going to combat them. Because obviously, we're dealing with some things in 2020 that we're like, dude, we should have been past those. But we're realizing that we're still tribalistic. We're still separating ourselves into these like, for real, like these binary options. Like, bro, that's like so I don't mean to say it so corny, but so unintellectual.
Yeah,
I'd agree with that.
I agree with what you're saying. Yeah.
Let me go back to some of these comments real quick. Saint saying, or everyone is closed-minded on the same page, or we just take all the Bomb Boys to Mars and nuke the Earth.
I'm down for that.
Utopia achieved.
I'm down for that.
Someone say Alpha? Yes.